Meeple Nation Podcast, episode 424. Harry Potter, Hogwarts Battle.
Hey, that's not Sean Connery. All right, Dave, you do have more than one voice.
Welcome, citizens of Meeple Nation. For the next 30 minutes, sit back and enjoy.
So we are sponsored by Game Toppers LLC. If you want to have an experience that, let's say, magical, and you want to play board games on it, put these together. Pick up Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle and Game Topper, you will have a magical evening. It holds it all in place. It looks wonderful. Elevates any surface that you put it on. Game Toppers LLC. Definitely check them out.
What's the best mat
I was thinking the same
to
thing.
play under Harry Potter?
I think that the wooden mat would be the best one to play.
That would be a good one. I was thinking the lava one with the dragons.
Oh, that could be too, yeah.
Now that you bring it up, I think the wood one is probably the most appropriate Game Topper mat to go with.
And if you would like to have debates like this with your friends, you should check out the mats from Game Toppers LLC. It's very apropos.
Maybe we should make that a part of each of our episodes. Pairing a game.
So
that we're
it's like
discussing
wine
with the
pairing,
map.
you know,
Kind
like
of, yeah, kind of like wine pairing.
So like
but-
with your steaks, you want a red, but no, it's like, okay, now with this game, you really should go with the Cthulhu mat.
I like that idea. Welcome to Meeple Nation. We are your hosts. I am Andy Holliday.
I'm Nathan Howard.
I'm Dave Holliday.
I'm Logan Howard.
Check out our website. We have all of our episodes that you can listen to, blogs. We have photos, links to our bios, also a link to our Patreon. If you like what we do and would like to support us to help us improve what we're doing, we would love your support. Jump over to Patreon and show your support for us. Definitely appreciate any help you can send our way. Have any comments or questions for us? Anything you'd like to tell us, email us at meeplenation@gmail.com. We also are on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram.
And if you have a feeling about what mat from Game Toppers LLC should be played with Harry Potter, comment on our Facebook group.
We would love to discuss that with you.
This week, we are concluding our series of games that are based on TV, movies, and or books. And we are finishing that discussion with Harry Potter Hogwarts Battles. This is a game for 2 to 4 players, plays in about 30 to 60 minutes. Sometimes it plays even less.
Yes, sometimes much less, sometimes much more. And correction, Nathan, depending on your expansion, it goes up to 5.
Oh, excellent. Designed by Forrest-Pruzan Creative, Cami Mandell, and Andrew Wolf. Published by the OP. The forces of evil are threatening to overrun Hogwarts Castle. In Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle, a cooperative deck-building game, it is up to 4 students to ensure the safety of the school by defeating villains and consolidating their defenses. In this game, players take on the role of one of the Hogwarts students, Harry, Ron, Hermione, or Neville. Each player has their own personal deck of cards that is used to acquire resources. By gaining influence, players add more cards to their deck in the form of iconic characters, spells, and magical items. Other cards allow them to regain health or fight against villains, keeping them from gaining power. The villains set back the players with their attacks and dark arts. Only by working together will the players be able to defeat all the villains, securing the castle from the forces of evil.
How many times have you played this game with us, Nathan? At
That's-
BGG, we played it a few times. Was that pretty much it? Was that BGG?
No, we played before then, too.
As much as we talk about dungeon crawlers and games like that we love,
And this game.
this game, I think, for our group is specifically right up there at the top of our list of games we love.
I think you're right, Dave. You say that. We've played this through, I don't know how many times we've played the game all the way through. You start at year 1 and you play through all 7 years, and then with the expansions it adds more plays, right?
Mhm.
I don't think we've ever gotten tired of it. Such a great game.
As we talk about games that are based on books, movies, TV shows, and whatnot, it would have been so easy for them to put a game out there and just put Harry Potter on it and make some money. But the quality of this deck builder is fantastic. And I don't know where it's at on my top games, but it's definitely a competitor for one of the top games on my list.
Even with the title, I thought it was going to be meh.
game.
Yeah, I did too. I put off buying this game for that reason. I was in the game store and I don't know, I have a problem. We've discussed this before and I needed a fix. That was the only thing that was, I thought, you know what? I'm just going to do it. I'm going to try it. I don't regret that purchase at all. There have been purchases I've regretted. That's not one of them. With Harry Potter, as Nathan said, you're going to play as one of the 4 wizards in year 1. Dave typically likes to be Hermione. I usually play Ron. Logan, you're usually Neville Longbottom, Harry Potter's friend, right?
I switch between Harry Potter's friend and Hermione. So it's
Okay,
if Dave's
that's right.
playing.
Although I've spent a lot of time playing Harry as well.
That's true. And honestly, the funny thing is I think Harry's one of the weaker.
The
He
least
is,
popular of the ones. So if we don't have a full game, he's normally the one that gets cast aside.
But the thing that I've discovered that I like playing him, that makes me like playing him, is he's a good companion to the others. Like, Ron is the best. He's going to dominate. He's going to be the most powerful, in my experience, my opinion. Harry, I think, is a great companion to all of them. And depending on who you have in the game, you have to have Ron in the game. Harry does a little bit of everything.
You don't have character powers. As you go through the years, you unlock more content. But starting out in year 1, you just have hero card. There's no real special about it. It just has a picture of the actors.
They have their basic spells.
Right.
And then I think everybody has an item and an ally.
Yes, a unique item and a unique ally. Everything else is the same. It is a little bit different than a typical deck builder game where everybody has the same starting deck.
Right.
I mean, the makeup of it's the same, but you do have those 2 unique cards. And those stay with you. Every game you start with that same base deck. Every time, no matter what year you're in, it's always the same.
As I mentioned earlier, going through the years, 1 through 7, the amount of content that they add that makes it either that much more difficult, that much more interesting. It's fantastic, just the layer upon layer that they add throughout the games.
It's a lot like a legacy game in that aspect where you finish a game and you're kind of excited to see what's going to come next and
Totally.
what unlocks next, what new thing comes out. And there's a lot of stuff that really adds uniqueness to the game that you didn't get in those previous plays. Really is almost a game changer. In fact, I noticed that in certain years before you get your new hero card that will unlock a special unique power for your hero that was always available, like the year prior to getting those new cards, that year's usually really hard. And the game kind of kicks your butt in that year. Sometimes we have to play it a couple of times to get through it, to get on to the next year and unlock the next stuff.
That is definitely something that's great because it is a purely cooperative game and it's not easy. Depending on the year, you have either 1, 2, or 3 villains that are out and all their abilities are active at the same time. And sometimes some of those combinations are just devastating at the beginning of the game. Dementors, if they're out, you take damage every single turn. Umbridge, Pink Lady. So if you buy a card over 4, you take a damage, which is so terrible at the beginning of the game. If your character passes out or loses all their health in this game, it's terrible. You have a location card, and it has little markers on it. As soon as that marker fills up, you go to the next one. It's kind of the game tracker. So it's either you defeat all the villains, or you go through all the locations.
Right. They're overrunning those locations, so you lose those locations as they fill up.
On each of those locations, if we back up a bit, when you take your turn, the first thing you do is you draw a Dark Arts card, and you resolve that card. Some of those can be pretty terrible. In fact, some of them can make you draw additional Dark Arts cards.
That's what Bellatrix does. She makes you draw an additional Dark Arts card.
That's correct. Like, you can be full health, 10 health to start your turn, and be completely decimated by the time you even get a chance to play cards, just with the Dark Arts cards.
And that could be so terrible, because what happens when you lose all that health, you reset, and your health goes back up to 10, but you have to lose half of your cards and any additional tokens. More support characters, Neville, Harry Potter's friend, or Hermione. Oh, everybody get a coin for their turn. Everybody get a damage token. So you have to discard all of those. So you go from having a decent turn to, holy crap, I can barely do anything.
Yeah, and like you said, Logan, you'll put one of those Death Eater Dark Mark tokens on the location. There are only a certain number of spots. Once those get filled, you lose that location. Depending on which game you're in, typically there are 3 locations. As you get later in the years, every time you lose that location, that's going to now force you to draw an extra Dark Arts card. This isn't the way it is at the beginning, the first couple years. it's a little bit easier, doesn't hit you quite so hard. But as you progress through the years, you lose that first location, now you're drawing 2 Dark Arts cards. You lose that third location, and now you're drawing 3 at the beginning of your turn.
Right, and when that happens early in the game, it's over.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no way to recover.
Yeah. In fact, even later in the game, it's hard.
Absolutely.
Just to clarify, some of those Dark Arts cards do 2 damage to another player and draw another Dark Arts card. So if you're already drawing 2 or 3 and it's telling you to draw another one, they compound so quickly.
We play a lot of games in which we like to form awesome combinations of cards, abilities, actions, whatever you want to call it. This is a game where that same phenomenon can happen against you. And it happens a lot, too. You get this horrible combination of cards that just work so well together against you.
And that's kind of the point I was making at the first, that some of those games are really, really short because of that incident.
Oh yeah, that was definitely our experience at BGG this last year. We were playing one of those games and the villains, they just came out and it was devastating to us. We didn't have a chance for how many times? It was like 2 or 3.
It was 3 times in a row. So you asked earlier how many times I'd played. I've played 6 times, and 4 times were at BGG, and 3 of those times were within a 30-minute time frame.
So, Andy, you were talking about those Dark Arts cards, and that's the very first thing that happens. Right after doing those Dark Arts cards, you have to resolve the villain or...
Any villain abilities.
The villain or villains that are out. In year 1, you just have the single villain. Once you defeat him, a new villain comes out, but there's only one at a time. But as you advance in years, you have multiple villains every turn, and they each have a different ability. Like we talked a little bit about Bellatrix and
there's
the Death Eaters.
There's Death Eaters. There's the Basilisk that comes out in year 2.
The super devastating werewolf that comes out that you can't heal while he's out there.
Fenrir Greyback. Then they're all just terrible abilities, and you find yourself discussing around the table, okay, who's the worst one?
Mm-hmm.
Who do we have to take out first?
Who are you summoning?
But the hard thing about that quite often, though, is you're like, we got to get rid of this guy first, or we got to get rid of the Basilisk because he makes it so we can't draw cards. But then we're like, gosh, but who's going to come after we get rid of him? Who's going to flip over? And is that really going to be better, or are we better to... And then you have some of them that heal the others. All sorts of devastating combinations.
I love that aspect of it. And not only do you get more villains that come out, every year more villains get added to the villain stack that you have to get through. It's not that, okay, you fight maybe Draco Malfoy and Crabbe and Goyle in the first year. They stay in the game the entire time. So every year you're getting more and more villains added that you have to get through the entire villain stack to win the game. And it gets progressively more difficult. Yes, you get more cards that you can purchase that are different, that are better, but also it's a nice balance. They balance it so well in this deck builder. I think it's one of the best I've seen as far as balance goes.
Even just the customizability of your own character is fantastic. I want to say it's year 6 with proficiencies. You get to go through the stack of cards and you get to be able to say, like, I'm going to be the master of History of Magic, and I gain this ability in addition to my character's ability. And some of those abilities, they trigger off of each other, and holy smoke, they're fantastic. And it's crucial because the game is kicking your butt so bad. You need that super epic power almost to counteract it.
You know, especially if, for example, if you're playing Neville Longbottom, Harry Potter's friend, like he's good at healing, and some of those proficiencies that will boost that power of his can be absolutely game-changing for the heroes because you're not getting knocked out as much. Because there are cards in the game that will allow you to heal, but most of the time they'll have an additional ability that you can do damage or heal, or gain money or heal. And if you don't have to spend that card to heal, you actually can potentially take out a villain or gain a card that is going to be a little more expensive that will be huge and benefit everybody. Because there are cards in play that will give everybody something. For example, it comes out in the first year as a card that you can purchase as an ally. Super expensive and really difficult to get in the first game. But he benefits everybody. He's giving everybody tokens, damage tokens, and heals everyone, and gives everyone card draw, and gives a coin.
Yeah, it's like one of everything.
One of everything.
Yeah.
Hugely beneficial, especially in that first game if you can get him. But also I believe he costs 8 coins to get, and which is almost impossible to do in that first game.
Ron Weasley, his abilities revolve around having a lot of allies.
With his beans, his Birdie Bots, every flavored beans in particular, work really well with allies. And when I play Ron, I like to take the Arithmancy proficiency, there's a lot of allies that let you roll house dice later in the game, and that lets you re-roll a house die. Whenever you roll a house die, everybody gains the benefit on it. If you're looking for a specific thing on the roll of those house dice, and each house has a strength, more faces of one type, whether it's damage tokens or coins or healing or card draw. It sure is nice when that roll comes up, not what you want it to be, and having that re-roll. Especially in the last game when you are trying to take out all of the Horcruxes, and you need specific things to take out those Horcruxes. Those re-rolls can be absolutely huge.
That's another fantastic thing that they made the game more difficult towards the end was the Horcruxes. It has a super negative effect, and the only way to get past it is get cards that allow you to roll the house die, and then a specific symbol you have to roll to cross it off. This game is crazy. It has so many different cards. When you get to the later 7th year, the stack of cards you have for just the draw deck for the market is just so massive. To get good combinations from that, so rarely where I'm disappointed with what actually gets built into my deck.
You mentioned the difficulty of the Horcruxes. Once you get to where Voldemort is back at the end of the World Cup in the movies, you have to fight Voldemort every single year after that. The last year, in year 7, you have to not only fight Voldemort, but in order to kill Voldemort, you have to have all of the Horcruxes taken care of. So thematically it works great, and they're not the easiest things to get rid of, like you said.
And to go back to what Dave was saying earlier, when Voldemort's out, he's progressively worse and worse and worse as it goes through. As Dave was saying earlier with the villains of the Basilisk, do we really want to defeat them right now? No, let's focus on getting the Horcruxes out of the way, and then reveal Voldemort if we have that chance.
There's definitely a lot of management as far as which villains are out. I think that's one of the biggest things you manage in the game.
That was the other thing that I was getting at before when talking about Ron and the allies, because one of the other things that you manage a lot is what you're going to buy, because there are people that have certain strengths, like Hermione wants to have lots of spells.
It's not even just lots of spells. Her unique item she gets, the Time Turner, if she buys a spell while that's in her hand, she puts it directly on top of her deck.
Right.
So it's immediately going to be able to get used.
Right. So if there's a great ally on the board and only one, and Ron doesn't have very many allies yet, that's something that I'm going to pass on because I want to make sure that Ron gets a chance to get more of those into his deck, because that's going to make a big difference.
Yeah, and that's where the cooperative part of this comes into play. You have to be willing to maybe sacrifice a card that you want because it would be good for you that would be better for someone else, which is unlike most deck builders, right? Because it's competitive and it's like, oh my goodness, that card's so amazing. I want to get it because it would make this work so great, but it would really be better for this person. You got to hold off and let that person try to buy it.
And I think that as it's purely co-op, you just have to go in understanding that not every single game you're going to be the MVP. Yes, you'll play Ron quite a bit, and yes, he is, as you were saying earlier, Dave, fantastic. He ends up with doing massive amounts of damage and all this stuff. Back with BryceCon that we went to, we played all 7 years. And our friend Will, he was grumpy in one of the games because he wasn't the MVP in it. Hey, that's just how the game is. Sometimes some people are better, and that's just how it comes out.
You have to realize that you need to build your deck to fill a role in the group. Like, if you're playing Neville Longbottom, Harry Potter's friend, you kind of want to get the cards that are going to heal, especially healing other players later in the game because of his abilities. When he heals other players, you're going to gain a benefit. If you're playing him, you want to kind of focus on that. Play to your character's strengths. Now, you don't have to. After year 6, you can pick a proficiency that maybe isn't as beneficial, but you want to try it out. There's nothing wrong with that. But it definitely benefits you to play to your character's strengths and to buy cards that are going to benefit your character and your character's abilities.
Puts the focus on the cooperative of the game, right? The cooperative level.
Yes, Nathan, it does put the focus on the cooperative. If we all don't succeed, then we're not going to succeed. That's really what it comes down to. We can't wait 4 turns to let Andy have a great epic turn as Ron.
Right.
Because the game will just destroy us if we have to wait 4 turns for that to happen.
So if it's a good ally, for example, which Ron, like Dave alluded to, that's one of Ron's strengths. If it's an ally that we really, really should get into play, and if I'm playing Ron and I just don't have the coins for it, sometimes it's just better just someone buy it because we've got to get it in cycling through people's decks.
That's happened all the time where Dumbledore will come up and holy smokes, I got enough coins to buy Dumbledore. It'd be great if Andy got him, but we just need to get him.
Yeah, for sure.
I've only played this game the 6 times, and like I said earlier, 3 of those plays were in less than 30 minutes when we lost. I've really enjoyed the game, and like we mentioned at the first, I was really surprised with how well this game did, how well the game is designed. I mentioned earlier that I thought the title alone turned me off. I had no interest in it. Somebody said they'd played it and they really liked it, and I'm like, yeah.
People who play Monopoly or Risk, and you're like, yeah, it's just like that.
Yeah, just like that. Andy talks about it, just mentioning it on Friday night. You can get Logan to stay there for an extra 3 hours, maybe even longer. So I was a little bit intrigued with how well this game was, and it's not going to keep me there for 3 hours, mostly because when I am tired, I go home. But I would play the game for 3 hours because I think it is very fun, very well done. As far as cooperative games go, I mean, I compare it to the level of cooperation that you need to work together, It's not, oh, well, I want this card, so I'm going to go for this because it allows me to do something cool. I'm talking to you, Dave. This game, you need to work together. You look at Pandemic. Pandemic is a game where you need to work together or you're going to lose. There's no one who's going to say, I'm going to just do this because I want to do this. You mentioned you have to buy cards to buy them just so that they don't get lost, and just so they can get into play, and that's true. But a lot of the times you're looking at, okay, how can I make Ron better? How can I make Neville Longbottom, Harry Potter's friend, better? Did I get that right?
You
Good
did.
job.
You did.
Nailed
All
it.
right, look at
Okay,
that.
nailed it.
That's where the cooperative comes from. We were talking about with that Dumbledore card. He's fantastic, but he's super expensive. I would like to get him to Ron, but if we sit around waiting for somebody to get that many amount of coins again, sometimes it just doesn't happen. Counterpoint, we've also had games where everyone's had 20 coins per turn. It's ridiculous sometimes.
But I'm just kind of going to the point where, look at Descent, one that not everybody needs to look in all the chests. Dave's character was exceptional at getting into almost every single chest.
And not fighting anything.
However, Dave was exceptional also at moving my slow character to where my character needed to be. Dave was pilfering all the chests, but Dave was getting my slow character where he needed to go. So that level of cooperation, however, Descent allows you to go for a little bit of that, because Dave loves to open chests. You know, that's something that he personally thrives on, opening and discovering what's inside those. The point I guess I keep trying to make is that the level of cooperation in this game is what shines for this game, I think.
I agree with you. And like you said, not all co-op games, in fact, very few, I think, are like that. You mentioned Pandemic. I think that's a very good comparison, that you do have to work together. You know, what surprises me is the fact that you know, as we're playing, we're talking, oh yeah, I can do this on my turn, I can do this, and it's still difficult. Even with the open communication of what you can do on your turn, what you've got going on, it's still a hard game to win at times. Other times you breeze through it. It really depends on the luck of the draw and what comes out, what you can put in your deck when you're building your deck up. But it also, like we talked about, a lot of it depends on the villains that come out in those combos and how quickly you can break those combos. If you can get a villain out of there, it can be devastating. So I like the fact that you do have to work together, but yet even though you have to work together with the open communication, it still can be difficult and you can get wasted.
I think it would be worth trying to see how much difference it makes. No real communication, and we all just do play our own game.
That would be tough,
Just
but
to see.
it would be fun to do. I agree.
I guess my one criticism I have with this game, as flushed out as this game is, as fantastic as I think it is, as they build layer upon layer, year through year, the expansion, additional characters, I don't think they did as much work with them as they could have. So one of the expansions you get Luna, and one of the expansions you get Ginny Weasley. Just don't think they're as great as the beginning characters.
I can see what you mean with that. That being said, I enjoyed playing the expansions and
Playing the expansions, 100%. Yeah. I just don't think the additional characters that they added.
That may be because we're used to playing them. I think they're probably still better than Harry.
Yeah, I would agree.
Poor Harry.
Poor Harry's getting hated on, I know. But the expansions, I like the theme aspect. So you have Magical Beasts theme, and then you have the Charms theme. I think that they did a great job with both of those, and both of them play so differently. Creating potions that are one-time use, but they can be pretty powerful. And then with the magical creatures, you're adding creatures to the villain deck instead of just villains. Some of those creatures can be kind of crazy. Some of the powers really blend nicely with the existing villains that are in the base game.
So the one thing that we haven't done, which I really want to do, is it's a big epic battle. We found it in one of the rule sets for one of the expansions. You create a giant map. Every single villain throughout the game, including all 3 Voldemorts, every single location, all the Horcruxes, and you have to fight through all of them. It sounds amazing. It sounds crazy difficult. Just like our experience at BGG, I'm sure whatever comes out can just annihilate you. So I'm looking forward to trying that.
That's what I thought you guys had actually done at BryceCon.
No, BryceCon, it was just the epic legacy of year 1 through 7.
You just went through it all for the sake of
We did a marathon.
Will's experience.
Yep, we did a marathon play of years 1 through 7. And it was a ton of fun. I think that was my 3rd time playing through years 1 through 7. And I think I still had just as much fun playing it.
Excellent. That's awesome.
And then once you fully understand Nathan, and he says Harry Potter, that's when you just say, okay.
It could be 1 o'clock in the morning, and Logan is snoring next to me. Sorry, it could be 10 o'clock at night. Logan is snoring next to me at the game table, and I'll say Harry Potter, and Logan will stay until 2 o'clock in the morning.
Logan will wake up and get excited for Harry Potter.
Yep, 2, 3 in the morning, he'll stay, even if he was asleep at 10 o'clock at the game table. It has a special powers. It is a magical game.
It sounds like it's a magical game for Logan.
That's Harry Potter, Hogwarts Battle.
2 big thumbs up. I've enjoyed it.
It's great. If you've been hesitant, you've seen it at the game store like Andy has, pick it up. You will not regret it.
And buy it so you can take it home and play it.
That's true. You have to pick it up and pay for it. You just can't walk away.
Until next time.
We'll see you picking a winner of a game like Harry Potter Hogwarts Battles.
We'll see you staying for another 3-hour game at 10 p.m. or 1 a.m.
As always, we want to thank you for listening.
Check out our website. We have all sorts of cool things there. Love those blogs. Get a deeper look into the writing side of Meeple Nation.
Join our Facebook group, Meeple Nation Off Air. I look forward to seeing you there.
Follow us on Twitter, @MeepleNation. We also have Instagram.
Under the same name. We also want to thank our sponsor, GameToppersLLC.com.
We love their product, and they have so much goodness out there.
And we also want to thank Brain Detergent for our music.
The forces of
You sounded super into that, Nathan. Like, that was amazing.
or Neville.
Sorry. Neville.
Neville. What did I say?
Neville Longbottom, Harry Potter's friend. Full sentence.
That's his title.
Oh, that's his title?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good luck, Nathan.
Just going to leave that in there for you guys.
What do you think, Nathan?
Go Slytherin.
Who's Slytherin?